Before we write a single line of SQL, we should have a good idea of exactly what we want to do with our database and what our database should look like by the time we've finished creating it. We should go through a process of planning or data modeling before we start implementing our solution. The question, where do we start when we're about to create a database solution for a particular problem, is best answered that we should first of all understand the nature of the problem. We should look first to the real world needs or problems that have created the need for the database. Sometimes it'll be just us who needs to use a database, and therefore it's simply a matter of getting our thoughts together on paper or in our heads or however we wish to do it. More likely though, we'll be designing a database for a number of people, all of whom have an idea about what they want to get out of the database, and this could be such a diverse range of people as the head of the organization, the programmer who is going to interface with our database, the end user, the person who is going to provide technical support to the end user, the customer, and so on. So it's important that we consult everyone involved and get a good idea of what their opinions are as to the needs that underpin the creation of the database. It's important that we analyze the problems that underlie the needs for creating the database in the first place, and that we have a set of objectives that everyone has agreed upon and that we can go forward to implement. Once we've done our consultation and we've talked to all the relevant people, or if it's a very small project just involving, say, yourself or you and one other person had a chat or even just sat down and had a think about it, it's time to start getting a little more concrete about the way in which we want our database to be structured. I like to start putting things down on paper from the earliest opportunity, and this doesn't have to be in a very structured way at all. I like to use a simple brainstorm, just scribbling on a piece of paper to get some ideas down as to what I think I need to include within my database. There's no particular logical right place to start here, just want to get as many ideas down on the paper. I'm taking as an example the library database that we looked at in the last movie and how I came to come up with that particular set of tables. I knew that I wanted to center the library database around the books that contained within it, so I wrote the word book on a piece of paper, and then I simply drew lines out from that central point with all the other relevant elements I thought should be present within the database. Of course, this is going to be a very scrappy process, one which you may bring up at least as many questions as it answers. That's the whole idea behind a brainstorm. You may find that you add elements which you later realize that you don't need to include at all. That's all fine. Part of the process is making the mistakes early so that you don't make them once you've implemented within your database, and then you have to worry about programming, taking data from one place to another, and all these other kind of hassles and nightmares. It's much better to make the mistakes on the drawing board and get them all ironed out as much as possible before you go to implement your solution. After we've got a general idea of the kind of things that we want to be doing in a brainstorm or however you like to do it, it's a good idea to map out the concept behind whatever application you're using for your database, or for your database structure for that matter. You may need to create a few of these to make concrete some of the ideas of what you're wanting to do with your database system. For instance, this one is a simple diagram that illustrates the way in which I want to run a search query on the data. I want to be able to search by title, author, ISBN or publisher. and I want it all to have the same result and come back as the results of my query. So a simple diagram, even as simple as this, will help to solidify in your mind exactly what you want to be doing.